It's time to expose the DEI narrative. It's time for that narrative to die. So, I've got the right skin complexion to be talking about this as a guy who has lived in very, very blue cities for at least 2 decades. As a guy who has worked for major global corporations, as a guy who has been quite successful in my career, I've certainly, gone up that ladder for sure. Started from the bottom, now I'm here. Definitely born in a third world country. Didn't come from money. I came as a young kid from a small island to big New York City. Didn't know nobody, didn't have no contacts, and somehow magically worked my way pretty high up. Now, here's the reality. A lot of people who are critiquing DEI don't really understand how DEI even works. Now, I believe there have been conversations about quotas. Now, quotas, I think, would be the most dangerous part potentially of a DEI situation because, it's for the same reason with law enforcement when you have quotas. Because if you have this quota where you're trying to meet it and you're trying to fill that quota by hiring minorities, I mean, mathematically speaking, that is problematic because you're trying to hire from a very, very small pool of people and you want them to, of course, be qualified. So, it's tough to hire in general, finding good people. But if you're going to be looking at a very small pool, the odds of you finding the quality candidate that you want or need is going to be a bit challenging because, again, it's challenging even with the big pool, right, in terms of finding good quality people. So quotas, if you want to talk about quotas, then we can have a conversation. But if you're in general just talking about DEI in general, because there's a lot of different approaches to DEI, right, then that's where things kind of fall apart. I just watched a video from Breaking Points, a show that I enjoy. I think it represents one of the best that we have in the news media in general. However, they certainly have some very bad takes, and I think this is an example of it. So my guy, Saagar, I don't know how to pronounce his name, he did a video talking about the DEI scam, and he highlights how there was a massive surge in minority hires. I think somewhere after like Black Lives Matter or something like that, after those protests. And if I remember correctly, what he was showing was, I think, like maybe there was a 96% increase in hire of minorities. And I don't know I'm not gonna say that. I just know the graph he showed, it showed 6% white, 94% minority. And I'm guessing maybe he's saying the percentage of new hires or something. So first of all, let's just start with the basics. The companies still, after all this, right, all this alarm, DEI, whatever, 94, 6%, whatever, right, reverse racism, companies are still overwhelmingly pink-skinned, right? Minorities are in no way dominating these companies. They're still in very, very small numbers. I don't think the increase that we saw recently is even enough to be noticeable. I mean, if I were to go into a typical, corporation right now in New York City, just walk in the office right now, I don't think I'm going to see anything noticeably different than what I would have seen 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Let me tell you how much DEI is not really a thing in the real world. Online world, people talking online, Twitter, whatever. Yeah, sure. But in real world, let me tell you how much it is. I literally purchased my house, my multifamily house, specifically, essentially, because DEI ain't a goddamn thing. What do I mean by that? One of the inspirations for me purchasing my house is because of me being out of work for so long, multiple times in my past, where my money ran out and I'm sitting there, struggling to pay the rent, struggling to pay my bills, struggling to pay my food as a grown ass man. I made a decision that I never, ever, ever want to be in that situation again. Never ever want to be in that situation again. So I bought the house specifically. So worst case scenario, I could live in my basement, right? Mortgage paid by tenants, right? And I make just enough profit to pay for food, so I'm good. The biggest expense is housing. So if I have a place where I can stay, a little tiny spot in the basement, like literally where I'm at right now. It's a little messy, but it's 200 square feet. And I've been so busy, I haven't had time to figure out, you got to really maximize your organization staying in a space like this. And when you're busy as me, up until midnight, working on stuff 7 days a week, it's not a lot of time to organize. But anyway, that's one of the biggest reasons why I bought the house. If DEI was a thing, I wouldn't have needed to go through all the stress I went through the year and a half buying this house, barely pulling it off. And, just a lot of stress. I had a depression, not even 3-4 months ago because it was just so much pressure, so much stress. Now I'm good, but I'm starting to get overwhelmed again. Why did I take on all this stress and aggravation? Because again, um, DEI. I've never seen any benefit of any goddamn DEI. So I I have a great sense of fear that I'll be out of work at the wrong time, and maybe the third time's a charm, and I'll be out of work for too long, and I end up, having to take some minimum wage job, and barely end up getting by, and my skills get too rusty to where I never make it back. Because at some point in time, you've been out of work for too long, right? And then everything just falls apart. And just the idea of potentially being homeless, right? Why would somebody like me, working for some of the top companies in the world, right? Senior level, right? Why would somebody like me have to be living with such fear, right? As a person who's like, I'm not a fearful person, right? People talk about crime, and I'm like, what crime? What are you talking about, right? I'm in the hood all the time. Not because I'm stupid. I know there's gangs out there. I keep my eyes open when I'm in there, but I don't live a life of fear. So for somebody like me that doesn't worry about stuff like other people do, but I'm worried about this thing, tell me about this goddamn DEI, because I don't know what y'all talking about. I don't see it. Maybe I'm not dark enough. Is that what it is? Right? So for all this alarm, what is the impact? Marginal at best, right? It's kind of like the COVID trick where you have a population of, you have an area where there's 2 people that have COVID, and then the following week it's 4 people, and they say the infections doubled in just a week, right? The fearmonger, right? Playing games with numbers. So if you have a company that only has 1% minorities, and then they go and they focus on hiring minorities, and now they have 3% minorities, that's a big increase, right? But it's still only 3%, right? So even though they focus on it, and we're so small, so because you're starting with a small number, you can double, triple, quadruple it, and it's still, you end up with small numbers, right? But if you look at just the percentage increase, it's like, oh my goodness. So I think that's what Saagar is showing, right? Because again, go show me the company that used to be all whites, and now you go in there and it's a bunch of brothers and sisters and women. I'm not seeing it as somebody who works in corporate America. Now, that being said, here's a detail that is missed. That was missed in that video, and it's missed in a lot of conversations. People talking about issues with DEI. So there's this idea that there's reverse racism, there's discrimination. So you have a so-called white person and a so-called black person applying for a job, and then the black person gets the job because of his skin color, because of this DEI stuff. The white person might have had more qualifications. Of course, there's this weird assumption that the white person had more qualifications when the so-called black person could have very well been more qualified. But let's put that aside. So that's the idea. You go in to apply for a job, and because your skin color is too light, you don't get the job. I even saw somebody commenting on the Breaking Points video, and he said just that. He said, I'm a white guy, I got all these certifications or whatever, and I've been unemployed for like 4 months, can't find a job. That's interesting, because me, as a brown-skinned brother, right, who is very knowledgeable, very good at what I do, very motivated. My work ethic is absolutely impeccable. I'm the guy that used to do 16-hour days on a regular basis. I'm the guy who, after work, when people go to the bar, I'd be like, nah, I want to finish this stuff up. That was me, right? I was a loser who stayed back to continue working, and then when I went home, what did I go home to do? To go play video games? No, to go read up on stuff, to learn more. That's what I did. No college degree, right? No college degree, worked my ass off. That is who I am. However, I can relate to this guy. Actually, not really. For me, being out of work for 4 months that'll be nice, right? Because, that's a good time to find a new job, 3 to 4 months, something like that. So 3 to 4 months, I mean, that's nothing, man. Now, when you want to talk about being out of work for 6 months to a year or more, then we can talk. And I've been through that. Now think about that. With all the diversity stuff that people are claiming, and you got someone like myself, well-spoken, all right, well-dressed. I was the guy in the 3-piece suits long after that was a thing. People wearing 2-piece suits, I'm in 3-piece suits. Then they started wearing blazers. I'm still kind of hanging on to the 3-piece suits. Like, I was, more well-dressed, well-spoken, super professional. I didn't even curse, right? Back in the day, I would not even curse. I didn't like calling people by first name, right? I was old school. I was Mr. and Mrs., right? I'm gonna call people, address people that way. We're not friends. This is business. Mr. Johnson, such and such, whatever. You know what I mean? Sir. I remember people tell me, don't call me sir. That was me. Real professional. Tight tie, whatever. 3-piece suit, well groomed. My shoes are polished. Got my wingtips polished, right? Well spoken, professional. Get along with everybody. I'm very motivated. Always want to go above and beyond. And I didn't see no goddamn DEI. Like, I naturally work very hard, but I also felt that I needed to work harder than other people. And I didn't even get into politics until, very, very recently. So I wasn't consuming a bunch of
pro-black media, whatever, talking about black people this and black people that, and the white man. I wasn't watching that stuff. I was too busy studying. I was too busy working my ass off to be watching that stuff, getting brainwashed by that. So the fact that I came to a similar conclusion in terms of I've heard this sentiment about feeling like you got to work harder than other people. That's interesting. And again, like I'm the one, right? I'm so the one that I used to be so I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I used to be one of the people who used to say this nonsense. I would see people with my skin color getting harassed by the police, and I'd be like, but look at you, you got your pants dropping down, you deserved it, right? I used to put it on them until they did it to me. Mr. Well-spoken professional, whatever, well-groomed, whatever. I'm nice to everybody and get along with everybody and, try to be understanding and empathetic and all that stuff, right? I'm the cool guy, right? I'm one of the good ones. Police treated me just like trash, like as if I had my pants dropped down. First time I wasn't in handcuffs. Why was I in handcuffs? Chain on my motorcycle broke down. I was waiting for a record truck. Police officer showed up, started accusing me of spraying graffiti on the wall. Say what? And then he's like, "Let me see your license." I take the license out to hand it to him. He clinks me in handcuffs. Then I'm in the car for 45 minutes with him looking for something. But it was nothing. I was clean, right? I'm the clean cut guy. There's nothing on my record. No nothing. Everything's legit. I'm just waiting for a record truck. Why am I sitting in the back of a car, right? But the best part is the police officer. I know T-Quad, I'm not gonna like this one. He wasn't white. It was Hispanic, right? Because maybe the issue with law enforcement is not really about skin color. It's more about power. So it doesn't matter whether you're a white officer, you're a Hispanic officer, you're a black officer. You're in that circle, right? That power circle, and you're looking at me. I'm prey to you, right? Apparently, that's a whole other conversation, right? So, with me being the person that I am, and not watching this, TYT type stuff, talking about racism, this and the white man that, why would I come to the conclusion on my own, right, that I feel like I need to work harder than other people? Which kind of worked out for me in a way because I naturally had that hustle mentality, that aggressive work ethic. That was natural. But I am also human, so the fact of working harder, than others sometimes was inconvenient because, sometimes the job market's not that good. And, which puts me in a situation where I really, really, really have to go above and beyond, like really knock it out of the park, to get a job, right? So you talk about 4 months out of work. I've been 6 months, a year or more out of work. Two times in my life, I got to the point where I was wondering if I'm going to end up homeless. Again, this is a guy who was making six figures, had a great resume, working for top companies, worked really, really hard. I rose up through the ladder, very, very quickly. But that's on my sweat and blood, right? While my colleagues, most of whom are white, were in the bar, I was still working, right? And that is how I got to the point where I could rise so quick. That wasn't no goddamn DEI, right? I remember my first interview when I came to New York City as a kid fresh out of high school. I think I had worked for 2 years at a computer store in another state and didn't really have any background, no connections, no nothing. And I walked into a major corporation, just walked in randomly. I didn't even know if they were hiring or not. And I just gave my resume. I got the job in 2 weeks. That you think that was DEI? No. When they interviewed me, the questions were laughable, right? And not because they were asking me baby questions. They were decent questions. But again, I am a hustler. I am a grind mindset guy, right? Before grind mindset was a thing. I mean, my grind mindset goes way back to the mid 1990s where my parents got me a computer, all they could afford. We didn't have money like that. So it was an older computer, so it was slow. I wanted to play video games. In order for me to get it to play the video games I wanted to, I needed to master the computer to make it operate above what it's supposed to be operating at. So that's a lot of reading and practicing and learning, right? So I was able to tweak my computer, reconfigure it to maximize whatever little power it had, right? And that was just my ambition, my get it done, my pull myself up by my bootstraps mentality, right? So when I interviewed for a basic like help desk job, I mean the questions, like I knew that stuff, man, right? It was so easy because I knew computers inside and out, right? I had the knowledge. That's what got me the job. Also, what got me the job is me having the guts to just walk into a major corporation like that and drop off my resume, right? And then blow them away on the interview. But with all that being said, me being able to do that multiple times throughout my career, also, it wasn't like I just walked in and just got any job I wanted to. There was many times that I was out of work for months and so many people interviewed me. And again, the guy with a good resume has a lot of knowledge, really good at what I do, great references, all this good stuff, well spoken, and my suit is, pressed, everything, right? I mean, if DEI was really a thing, in terms of the level that people were critiquing it was, I would have been never, ever been out of work for more than a month. I mean, a month out of work would have been. I mean, come think about that, man. A highly qualified person. This is the same argument that people that are against DEI are making. I'm highly qualified, and I can't. That's what the guy said in the comment section. I'm a highly qualified guy, and 4 months I couldn't find any work. Four months, bitch. I was out of work 12 plus. And again, I'm not just saying that as a because I'm brown skin. No, as a person who's just highly qualified. Period. Right? And that's not me arrogance or nothing like that. Again, I told you how I got to be highly qualified. And that's not. I give you an example as a kid, but throughout my career, I kept that mindset, man. You know how many books I've bought. And one of the things, I didn't go to college. One of the things that I did, I would go to websites for top universities, look at what the books are for their programs. They would tell you what books you need to buy. I would literally buy the college books myself and read them and teach myself the information, and never stopped learning and trying to push myself further and further. That was my mindset, right? If I accomplish this, how much higher can I go? Go this level. Can I go higher than that? Can I go higher than that? That was how I treated myself in terms of my profession. That's how I treated the jobs when I was working at jobs, always trying to move things to the next level. Even from that computer job that I had, I was the one who took the company online, right? I was so into computers and technology, whatever. I saw this internet thing. I got involved in it. And I said, man, we could get so much business from this internet thing, man. So I took it upon myself to create the company's first website. This was before everybody had a website. And I put the website out. I put some of our stuff on there. And I got inundated with so many emails from around the country. We were only doing business locally, right? That's what I did, right? That's me in my early 20s, 20 years old, 21. That's what I'm doing. Having the CEO of the company recognizing my efforts, not because DEI, right? DEI is not what made me bring a ton of money to the company. DEI is not what made me, I sold $50,000 in laptops to Harvard University back in those days because it was like $7,400 per laptop, right? It was Pentium 120, 12-inch screen CD-ROM. I remember it very well because that was a very big accomplishment. I got a nice commission check for that too. That was not DEI. That was hard work, right? And it's funny, the people who like talk about hard work and stop, blaming others for your failures and you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you gotta worrying about the government, this, that. Those same people are sitting there complaining about their failures in life, trying to blame it on somebody else rather than figuring out what they did wrong. Oh, it must be DEI. Well, I'm not hired. Man, if I was like them, when I was a year out of work, I would say it's because I'm black that they don't want to hire me. But that doesn't go with your argument. But I wouldn't make that argument. I wasn't the race card guy, right? I was not the race card guy. The reality was, the way I looked at it was, anytime I was out of work for a long time, it's just the market was bad. And also, this is a minor issue, but there were some elements where people do care you have a degree, but I shouldn't mention that because they don't really care about that. They care about what you bring into the company, right? So it's just, now, the problem is it's lonely at the top. So, by me climbing up that ladder, right, I'm getting to a higher level, more senior level, salaries going up, it's just more competitive at that level. Right? When you're working at the level that I'm working at the companies I'm working at, I mean, I'm competing with Harvard graduates. Come on, bro. I'm competing with Ivy League people, some of the best and brightest in the country. Of course, it's gonna be hard, man. So I'm not exactly the best example to compare myself because I don't know what kind of job that guy was looking for, what kind of companies he's looking at. But for me, I am applying to some of the top companies in the world. All right. And I'm competing with, again, some of the top people in the country. So it's going to be difficult. So regardless of how qualified I am, whatever, there's other people applying for the same job that, has more knowledge than me, right? Maybe they have more experience than me, or whatever it is. And sometimes I would go and do well in an interview, but then they would ask me some silly question about something that I tripped up on, but it'd be stupid stuff that I don't even need for the job, right? So if DEI was a thing, how in the hell could I go do good in an interview, but you ask me some random question and you're like, oh, you don't know this thing? And it's something that I don't really need for the job, but it's just like a typical interview question. That to me really, really demonstrates that the DEI nonsense is nonsense. I should never, ever, if it's a real thing, have ever been out of work for any long period of time, right? There's no explanation for that. I'm not the one. Not somebody like me that operates on my level, man. Air Force veteran. You know what? When we're in the military, when we were doing marching, I remember some drill sergeant tell you, man, being dead is not an excuse, right? That's the training that I got. Being dead is not an excuse. So a person like me with my work ethic and my knowledge and my background, working 6-figure jobs, why did I then end up going from a 6-figure job to working at a gym? I was working at a gym after reaching to the level of 6 figures, making, whatever minimal pay. I had like a 15-minute lunch break. I remember my boss used to stand outside making sure we smile and greet everybody coming in. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. No excuses. Get it done.